6-0, boys. Alright, I'll take some questions.
Hello, Mr. Joel. It is the Verd from the Daily Dingo. I apologise for not being here last week. I had some big issues in Australia. Somebody poisoned the water hole, and we had to go deal with it. But we're back now, and we have some questions for your past 2 weeks.
Alright, what do you got?
Alright, so discussing probably the current week right now, because it's just the freshest one in the mind. Obviously, a tough game against Crimson, potentially tougher than you expected it. Would you put that down more to Crimson's ability as a battler, or your, I would say, lack of normal battling awareness and skill, especially in the early part of the game, as you admitted?
Yeah, no, I think it's a combination of the two. Like, I do think Crimson made some good plays throughout the game that shouldn't be taken away from him. For example, he made a couple nice switches into the Cofagrigus, which gave me a lot of trouble, but, you know, it's also, you know, heavily on me as well in this case, I think. Like I mentioned in the battle commentary, I did not play well against the Cofagrigus at all. I made several very questionable plays around it that normally I don't think I would do. Most notably, I made a couple switches into my Persian, pretty aggressive switch-ins into Persian on the Cofagrigus when I really didn't need to. Also made a really aggressive switch into Mega Venusaur, which took a +2 Shadow Ball and a Spadef drop, and that was really unnecessary as well. So, yeah, I just think I played a little too aggressively against the Cofagrigus, and then on top of that, played a little too safely in the end game, trying to set up my win instead of making some necessary switches that maybe would have given me a more optimal path to victory instead of the one that I took. So, you know, I'll definitely take some of the blame for that, but fortunately still were able to pull out the win here this week and advance to the 6-0 record. So can't really complain too much about that, but yeah, definitely could have played the game better.
Discussing your Week 5 match against Aaron, and one of the big moments of that game was obviously turn 1, where the Breloom did hit 5 bullet seeds and was able to knock out the Pelipper. In terms of the overall game, how impactful do you think that first turn was?
Oh, it was huge. It was huge, because immediately what that does, as soon as the Pelipper is gone, is that makes Breloom a late-game win con immediately, which was really big, because Breloom just needed Aaron's Rain to be basically no longer a factor to become just an enormous threat against his team. However, on the same hand, or on the other hand rather, the Gardevoir was probably going to be an even better win condition against his team if he were to preserve his Rain. So it was kind of like a double whammy for him in that sense. But as soon as the Rain goes down right away, Breloom became a fantastic win con. But Gardevoir was going to be a win con either way, just because it had the Choice Scarf, could outspeed his entire team, and Kartana was his Fairy Resist. But, you know, if he gave me the Rain and the Swift Swim, then Gardevoir could have been a really, really big issue for even his potential Scarfers that he very possibly could have brought. He didn't end up bringing them. He brought like 3 or 4 Life Orb Mons instead, which is fair enough. But yeah, so it was big, definitely, in the game. And Breloom really came in clutch here for the past couple weeks. That's for sure.
One of the most common sets, I guess you've been doing a lot lately, is the Choice Scarf Breloom. And I know every season, like, we have a certain set that you do run that seems to be a common feature. Do you feel that Scarf Breloom's going to find itself in a few more appearances this season? Oh,
I'm not going to rule it out. I think the Scarf Breloom's a really good set. Definitely. I think the grass grass moves are pretty spammable, especially against the drafts in the GBA right now, and that's why you've seen that I brought both Mega Venusaur and Breloom several times. And, you know, in cases like that where I need to break down like an offensive or more of a defensive water type that can Calm Mind, like a Suicune, maybe the Manaphy coming up here next week is another possibility. It's really nice to have those faster offensive grass types to deal with that, and Venusaur isn't necessarily the best way to deal with bulky Calm Mind water types. So Breloom was just a really good way to deal with the Suicune in Week 6, as well as just to offensively deal with a lot of members on Aaron's team in Week 5. So, you know, it's very possible that I could bring the Scarf Breloom again. Not going to say I'm going to, or I'm not going to say I'm not going to, but it's definitely a good set. That's what I'll say.
One of the big moments of the game against Crimson this week was also the fact that I think on 2 different occasions you switched your Breloom hard in on Suicune when you could have potentially been Scald Burned. Now, if the burn had happened with Suicune, could you say with the utmost of confidence you still would have won that game?
No, you can't say that because Bullet Seed is a move that exists. Bullet Seed can hit anywhere from 2 to 5 times, and I've been unfortunately on the losing side of that before. But in this case, what would have, I believe what would have had to happen is he would have had to been able to get both the Scald Burn as well as get hit by no more than 2 or 3 Bullet Seeds, like 3 turns in a row. I think is how that would have had to work, because he still is only doing Scald damage to me offensively, And Braylon is pretty feral, but it still resisted, and Suicune didn't have any boost, and even if it got +1, it wasn't doing very much to me anyway with the Scald. So I think it would have still been a likely win in that case, but I cannot say with certainty no that it was a 100% win. Absolutely not, because Bullet Seed could have hit 2 times every single time, which would make me lose to Suicune inevitably. So yeah, that's definitely, that was the position that I was trying to avoid putting myself in, or I should have, especially in hindsight, avoided putting myself in by playing better in the end game. There was one instance in the end game that I mentioned in the commentary that I really wanted to stress, and that's where there was a turn where he switched his Suicune into my Arcanine, where I very easily could have read that and doubled into Braylon and gotten a lot of momentum on that turn a little bit more safely. And those are the kinds of plays I should have been looking for in that end game, but I just didn't do it in this game, because I think I played too safely after having to kind of catch myself from playing too aggressively against the Cofagrigus early in the game. So yeah, just a few misplays here and there that I can't let happen, but we'll have to try to patch that up here in the future.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
One of the big ones I just wanted to ask was, given that we're over the halfway point now of the GBA season, not to go into too much detail on it, but how are you feeling so far? Obviously 6-0 is fantastic, but yourself with the competition and the level that it's at, how are you feeling about the GBA so far?
Well, it's been a great experience, and really I'm appreciative for the opportunity. Definitely, it's been really fun as well. I think that my team building for the most part has been like on point throughout the season, and that's what's allowed me to do as well as I have. I also haven't really had too many like unlucky battles this season. That's something that tends to be a thorn in the side of a lot of players in Pokemon, and it hasn't really been, I don't think, too much luck on my side either. So the games have been pretty clean, which is nice as well. So yeah, just overall it's been a good experience, and we'll see if we can replicate the same results here in the back half of the season. It's only going to get harder as we get closer to the playoffs. Got rematches coming up against the divisional opponents, so yeah, it's going to be harder and harder as we go on. This streak is going to be very hard to maintain, I think.
And the final question I have for you, your opponent for next week, week 7 of the GBA, is Coach Z and the Columbus Chew. Obviously, you are undefeated. They have not got a win. Are you nervous heading into the game despite the big difference between the teams?
I wouldn't say nervous is the word. I'm always excited for my games coming up. It's a game that you don't want to lose, though. Like, I don't want to lose that game. I don't want to lose any game, obviously. So really, each game coming up here is really important, especially with the streak on the line, right? The streak is always on the line at this point, and you never really want that streak to end. So if there is any nerves, it's just because of that. But I'll be going into that game confidently. I'll be able to prepare in the process of preparing a very good team for that game as well. And we'll see how that team goes. And I'm definitely going to be changing up my battling approach for this game, though, as I really think the past couple weeks I've played a little bit too safely overall, and that's something I want to try to patch up here in the upcoming week against Coach Z with a bit more of an aggressive team style and play style that hopefully will get me back on the right track in terms of battling well here this season. Any other questions from the reporters? Okay, so we are done here, and I will see you guys tomorrow at the Team Builder coming up for our battle against Coach Z and his Columbus Chew, and of course the battle will be coming up on Sunday as well if you want to see that. So I will see you guys next time. Peace.